With rookie minicamp over for the Carolina Panthers, I have 5 burning questions that we are going to dive into today. Let's go.
For the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. This is your host, Carolina Dad. Hope you guys are doing well. First of all, normally we do a live show on Sunday night. I'm recording this at 9:36 p.m. Eastern. Getting this out to you guys, no live stream. So there's a little content that we want to get caught up. First of all, we are going to get into the 5 burning questions. If you want to skip forward, that's going to be coming up, I don't know, I'm guessing 3, 4, 5 minutes from now. So you can fast forward if you'd like, or you can sit here and we can kind of get you up to speed. Now, we're not going to talk about rookie minicamp. We've already talked about that. We've already talked about the draft, free agency. We've covered all of our bases, but I think there's few pieces that we can touch on before we get into my 5 questions. And I do have a bonus question that's not being addressed tonight, which we can start before we really get deep into this. And my first one that's a bonus that's not part of the 5 is which, if any, of the players that tried out for the Panthers this past week, really it's 2 days over that 2-day rookie minicamp, will make the roster. I only say that because Keon Crossan, who I actually noted was walking in with Dave Canales in one of the videos that one of the reporters posted, said that camp went good. He had a picture of himself. I said, that's great news. We need some help. We'll see how that plays out. But I am curious, out of I think there was about 4 or 5 tryout players. A lot of them, again, with ties to Tracy Smith from his time at Houston, special teams. But we need cornerbacks, safeties. Need a lot of help there. So I'm anxious to see how that plays out. Now, we're going to get into the 5 questions in just a minute. And folks, we do not have any graphics tonight because it's Mother's Day. It's late. I will be back this week with more graphics if you enjoy those. I know some folks do. Some of you guys just listen to the audio version of this, or not listen, but watch on Spotify, YouTube, all that. So appreciate you guys hanging out with me. One of the things that I noted in kind of setting this up was the Canales and Morgan blueprint that's really practicing and talking through patience, the process, and building this thing inside out. So when we think about this tandem, Dave Canales, Dan Morgan, entering into their second season together, it feels like they're trying to build out really a long-term solution, doing it from the inside out. And what we really mean by that is building this thing out from the trenches. Last year, the first year here, they focused heavily on the offensive line, getting stability there, possibly overspending in some situations, according to most. But you know what? It paid dividends. And we saw the success of Bryce Young. We saw the improvements in the sack numbers, not just him, but of course when Andy Dalton was out there as well. And so it looks like it paid off. So that's year 1. Year 2, you now turn your focus to, well, okay, the defense was terrible. Let's go ahead and build the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. So you do that with significant signings in free agency. You do that with drafting quite a few pieces to go there on the defensive side of the ball as well. A lot of it focused on the edge room. So this is where the Carolina Panthers sit. And you throw into the mix here the release of Jadeveon Clowney, and who knows if he's going to be the last notable name that gets cut, that gets released, that's no longer here in Carolina. Always a possibility that, and I don't know that you could get like a bigger name. Maybe it's a Shia Tuttle. I don't know that that's really big. DJ Johnson, Amari Barno, some guys in towards the back end of the roster, but you never know. But the model that the Carolina Panthers have shifted to is building a young core. And I think that's part of the reason that Jadeveon Clowney is no longer here, outside of investing very heavily on the defensive side of the ball and getting to edges. Seems like they're going with this model of getting younger. You look at Bryce Young, of course, leading the helm, entering into his third season, and he's actually going to be one of the questions that I have. It's a big year for him. Notably, you look at the way he finished. Everyone is wondering, can he replicate that? Can he do it for a full season? Can he cement himself in as a top 15 quarterback in the NFL? I'm not going to get too far into talking about Bryce Young because he is one of the questions that I have, and I want to wait to actually phrase and talk through that. But you look at the young core here on the offensive side of the ball, Xavier Legette going into his second season. You think about his rookie campaign, some good, and some not so good, but NFL.com analyst Mark Ross identified Legette as a potential breakout star. And I think the familiarity with Young, the offense, having Tedero McMillan there to take some of the pressure off, all those things coupled together should lend itself to a pretty good year for Xavier. I'm still putting all my chips in the basket on him, and I think he will have a good season for the Carolina Panthers. You add in rookie wide receiver Tedero McMillan. I think immediate impact based on what we saw in rookie minicamp, based off of what we saw at Arizona. I think this is a true wide receiver one. You look at his size, you think about what he's going to be able to do in the red zone, jump ball situations, one-on-ones, everything. Just taking the defense, having them hone in on him. I'm excited about that. And we talked about on the defensive side of the ball, getting younger at edge with Nick Scorton, with Princely Uman-Mielen, and there's a lot of expectations on them. ESPN's Ben Solik went as far as to predict that both Scorton and Uman-Mielen would be the starters by the end of the season. And I think that's a very big possibility that both of those guys could be your starters. Now, coming into it, I still think DJ Wonnum should have the upper hand. Curious to see what Patrick Jones is going to look like. You could have both of those guys, former Vikings, as your starters with a rotation behind that with Scorton and Uman-Mielen. Still to be seen. Linebacking core, young again, led by Trevin Wallace. I still want to see a lot from him, but you think about where they are there. The addition with Jimmy Horton Jr., another wide receiver in the mix, thrown in with Xavier, thrown in with Jalen Coker. I mean, you talk about Young and the drafting of Mitchell Evans and Trevor Etienne. This all-around picture of young talent, and then you couple that in with some veteran pieces in between. And what you hope is that you're hitting on these things and building for the future. So realistic expectations for 2025, going beyond how you, of course, measure wins and losses. I think given the team that this is really the second year of this rebuild, of this leadership, of this regime, I'd love to see a jump. I think internally, and again, I'm not saying that Dave Canales is going into the season saying let's win 8 or 9 games. But I think internally, if there's an expectation as far as measuring improvement, measuring success, that getting to the 8 to 9 wins is where the Carolina Panthers should sit. Just where it is today. And honestly, hearing Darren Gant talking a lot. But I will tell you, it's very easy to kind of buy into this idea that the Panthers are going to be significantly better, that the defense is going to be heavily improved, that Bryce Young's going to ascend into maybe top 10 territory in the NFL. I think we may believe that. And you look at the NFC South now, which has no quarterback really shaken out in New Orleans. Penix in his second year, and Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield may be the best quarterback in the NFC South right now. You couple all those things together, and you find yourself with like an opportunity for the Panthers to try to get themselves back in contention in the NFC South, get themselves back in contention to make the playoffs. But I think more than anything, it's competitive football. It's a 500 or better record in October and November. You want to be battling down the stretch. If they miss the playoffs, yes, it's going to suck. Nobody wants to see them miss the playoffs and not make it. But if they go down this stretch and they're losing early and they keep losing, that's not fun. You'd like to see them be competitive enough to carry this thing over into November, have December have a chance. Just give yourself a chance to be in the hunt for the playoffs, whether it's a wild card, whether it's winning the NFC South. Just give yourself a shot to do so. So anyways, folks, that's getting you guys set up. Now we're actually going to get into my 5 questions that I have, and we'll talk through these. So number 1, I said I was going to talk about Bryce Young. We're going to talk about him. Bryce Young's definitive. Is it going to be definitive? Ascension. So can he solidify himself as the franchise quarterback? So you think about, again, and I kind of talked on this a little bit, but the conclusion of the 2024 season, now looking at the investment that's been made, and it's a lot. They have gotten Bryce Young skill position players across the board. They've got a really solid offensive line. It's not that there aren't any more excuses, but it's like, hey, Bryce Young did well down the second half of the season, down the stretch when he finally got back in and got his feet under him and the game slowed down a little bit. Now is an opportunity to solidify himself. And when I say solidify himself as the franchise quarterback, make it known that you are the guy. And I don't think, there for probably the first 20 games of his career in Carolina, a lot of folks were worried on Sundays. It felt like we never were going to put forth any type of offense. You want to be able to go in feeling like we did at the second half of the season, but you want to make that last the whole year, because we're going to be talking about a 5th-year option pretty soon, or potentially an extension, getting a lot of money. And this is your time. This is a big year for Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers to show us, for him to show us, for everyone to know, moving forward, Bryce Young is going to be the future of this team. And we are going to invest $250, $300 million, whatever the number is at that point. And we're going to feel okay about it because we know this is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. We can't be comfortable with so-so with, 20 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. Not that he's thrown that many, but closer to that 15-6 mark, double 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, almost 4,000 passing yards. Like, just measuring and showing the improvement. That's my number one thing. So can he solidify himself as a franchise quarterback? We don't want to talk about today what happens if he doesn't, because I really don't want to go down that path. We did enough of that last season, worrying, contemplating who's going to be drafted, who are we going to bring in. I'll just say in all this, I'm thankful with Derek Carr retiring. The Carolina Panthers did not land him in the sweepstakes with Derek Carr years ago. Not that he's a terrible person, not that he's bad, but I'm just glad the Panthers are where they are right now. That's your number 1. Number 2, defensive metamorphosis. So will the massive investments that we talked about in free agency and the draft translate to a competent or even good NFL defense? Folks, it's not something we need to sit back and go through about how bad the team was in 2024. I feel like when we go into next year, that's all that's going to be talked about. We're not going to do that. There were massive additions. We talked about picking up Nick Scorton, Princely McMillan, Tershawn Turk-Wharton, Bobby Brown, Patrick Jones, Trayvon Morig. The guys are there. They're getting younger, as we mentioned, with Jadeveon Clowney also out of the mix. You still have Josie Jewell, a veteran, Trevin Wallace, anchored again in the secondary, Mike Jackson, J.C. Horn. I personally, Derek Brown coming back. Like, there's significant benefits to having him back in the roster. But are they going to – I think they are going to be beyond competent. I think they're going to be close to good. And I know that sounds crazy to say right now, but I do think – you go as bad as they were, like to the end of bad, and then you put all this in there, I think it's going to work out. Now, I could be totally wrong, but at least I think they're going to be average to good, just based off of everything that's happened. But that will be a big question, because all this ties into Ejiro Evero and his future here as he's in the last year of his contract. So big year for him. Is he going to prove himself and then get some opportunities to be a head coach? That's a possibility if this team makes the playoffs. If they are maybe top 10, top 15, definitely on the table. So, number 3, we talk about all these rookies on the team. How quickly are we going to see impact from these guys? You talk about the 2025 draft class. It's loaded. but how soon will these guys step up? So Tedero McMillan, of course, you feel like day one is going to be a starter, is going to be the number one. He's got to earn it. But I think he may be the most significant impact out of the gate. Someone sleeping in the mix, probably Lathan Ransom as well at the safety position, as he could be competing with Amani Richardson to be your starter. And then we've talked now quite a bit about Scorton and Uman McMillan, but I think that's going to be a continued theme when we talk about this team trying to get pressure, trying to build with young guys in the trenches, and heck, even throw ETN into the mix. Honestly, Jimmy Horn Jr. as well is what he can do in the return game and the bits and pieces we have seen from him in camp, jet sweeps, motion, punt return, kick return, getting him involved any way possible. So that's my number 3. How quickly are we going to see impact from all the rookies that are here? Again, you want to be able to hit on at least 3 or 4 of these picks. And hitting on it is a starter. Doesn't have to be an A++, but someone who can contribute early and often. Now, number 4 kind of ties into Bryce Young. Offensive line cohesion. Are we going to see the same consistency that we had last year? So you pick up Ike Ekwonu's 5th-year option. You have the same starting line with a question mark in a battle between Austin Corbett and Cade Mays, which is going to happen. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. But I don't know if you guys remember, about 2 or 3 years ago, we were over here applauding the offensive line because we had them under contract for two years or something like that. And we saw them crumble apart in Bryce Young's rookie season, with Bryce getting sacked 62 times, an insane amount. So from year to year, things happen, things change. Are we going to be able to see that consistency and even an improvement in it? And I think you will, because you have all the guys back outside of the battle with center. Who's going to be there? I mean, someone who was here. So you have that in your favor. You have to feel positive, I think, about where the Panthers sit and just having the same scheme, same coaches outside of the one coach that left and went away to assistant coach on the offensive line. But you have to feel good. And then you just see them bringing in depth too, of course. Some undrafted free agents. The competition remains. So that's my number 4. Lastly, number 5, and it's hard to quantify this or even make it a question, but what tangible signs of progress will indicate the rebuild is on track? That's a difficult thing to say. Are we going to see improvements in the defense? Are we going to talk about the rushing attack, like seeing an improvement there? Like, yes, we're doing our job. We're forcing turnovers. Do you define it as a closer games, of not getting blown out, of being competitive, like I said, in October, November? Really, we shouldn't say October. In November and December, that's where I measure it. I think this team has to be in that November, December range at or above 500. And again, Panthers may not make the playoffs this year. I understand that. There's still, even as much as they've invested and as much as we want Bryce Young to hit and all these other guys and pieces, which I think they're building a very solid foundation for the future, I'm also going to be realistic with myself and say, well, you know what? Doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to automatically just make this thing work. So I think, tangibly speaking, is it Bryce Young hits 3,500 yards? Is it, like we said, Bryce Young looks like the future? Is it Chuba Hubbard? Is it the offensive line play? Do you want to see something out of Xavier? Like, there's lots of storylines baked into this. Is it Trevin Wallace on defense? Is it the depth at cornerback, the backups? Is it the nickel and Shaw Smith-Wade? Is it the safety position? Like, you could take a storyline out of every position group and carry that into next year as a way to measure success. I think for me, though, it has to be seeing like 8 or 9 wins. And I know it's early. Panthers had 5 last year. They were competitive in most of the games in the second half of the season, very close to getting to 7. If you flip some of those overtime losses, I think it's a possibility that they could easily get 8 or 9 wins. And so that is my measuring stick for now. So anyways, folks, I appreciate you guys tuning in on a late Sunday night. Again, happy Mother's Day to folks that are listening to this, of course, after the fact, because this is going to be posted probably very early Monday morning or late Sunday night. But anyways, we're going to be back this week with more content, as we always are, getting you guys prepared. And guess what, folks? This is Carolina Dad. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Y'all have a good